Okay, so we've done a little bit of fiberglass work on here. I'm gonna wait till I get some tools in because somebody said I need some rollers, and I think I do. So before I continue too much further and do the rest of it, I got 2 more gallons and a whole bunch more mat coming. This is what I got done so far, was this top section and bottom section here, but I still have a lot more to do. So I figured I would start by working on some of the baffle parts. Let me show you what I got. So this is the woofer, and these are the baffles. I've got 2 baffles here, and they're both the same dimension. And they're pretty close. Everything's going to be so close together. So what I'm going to do here is lay all this stuff out. Then once it's all laid out, I'm going to cut it out with my Jasper jig right here. This is the JP200 Jasper jig. Been using this for a long time. I'm going to be using this it's a flush trim bit, but I'm repurposing it for cutting holes. So here's the first problem. This 12-inch woofer is actually 13 inches in diameter. This is a problem because I only have 14 inches to work with. So I got 13-inch sub and I got 14 inches to work with. The other problem is I've got 52.5 inches right here, and 4 of these subs is 52 inches. So I have a 1/2 of an inch to divide between the center of these 3 subwoofers. That's not a lot of space. So when I laid all these out, these little marks here where I'm going to put the center of my jig is right about 6 9/16 of an inch, which is just a little hair of margin between the subwoofers. They're going to be very, very, very tight. So according to this right here, I'll show this up on the screen. This subwoofer has a cutout diameter of 11.14 inches. So that's a little bit more than 11 1/8. So you're talking about 11 3/16 of an inch. That's not a lot of space. So if I round this up to say 11 1/4 inch, it'll be just a little bit too big. But more importantly, I don't have a lot of space between the subwoofers. So I think I'm going to go with 11 1/4 inches to allow them to move a tiny little bit if I have to. Okay, so the way I set this up right here, you see I'll put right here that the cutout diameter of this woofer is 11.14 inches. And I want a little bit of room, so I'm going to make that 11 1/4 inches. So I can have some room to place side by side if I need to because of how tight these are going to be. So the first thing I do when I set my jig up is I put the blade all the way away from the numbers, just like that. So I set it up in that orientation right there. Then what I do is I use this screw and I put it through one of these holes depending on which one I need. So 1/2 of 11 1/4 inches is 5 5/8. So if I come down here, I'll find the 5 5/8 mark, and I'll move this, and so it lines up with one of these holes. That's probably pretty close. And I got right here 5 5/8 is on one I've definitely used before, so that's probably it. So it's somewhere between there and there. So you see that 5 5/8 mark. That one's a little smaller. That one's a little bigger. This one's a little smaller than 5/8. So I'm going to put this screw on this hole right here, right between the two. And that should give me a spot just between those 2 sizes I've used previously. Right there. So the way I'm going to cut these out with this jig, this hole right here, this point on the mark that I just circled, is going to be our cutout start. You see right here, this tiny little dot, we're going to run that screw right through there. We're going to plunge it and we're going to cut around that. I've got my router, I've got my drill. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this right here, start the drill, I'm going to put it on that mark. Now, once I've started on there, I've got to start the router. I'm going to use the drill, plunge it all the way down, start the cut. Okay, so now that I have this down like that, we're going to continue the cut. I'm going to turn it on, start cutting it out. So if you notice, it didn't quite cut all the way down to the bottom. That's fine, because what I have to do is take my bit, drop it down a little bit, finish the cut. Okay, so I got the hole cut out right here. I haven't cleaned it up yet, so it's still a little bit dirty, but we're going to take the woofer, set it in the hole, check for play. Oh yeah, that's just a tiny bit, maybe a 1/16 of an inch of play. That's perfect. But I may also run these woofers inverted, so they need to have enough room to play inverted as well. So these work. I'm going to cut 7 more.